and welcome to the AAKP session on innovations in alternative therapies to dialysis, implantables and wearables. I'm Melissa Bensouda, an AAKP Ambassador and fellow kidney warrior. I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease at the age of 24 after giving birth to my second daughter. After my third child, I lost all functionality of my kidneys. While on the transplant list, I initially began dialysis treatments in center, but was selected to participate in a nocturnal home hemodialysis program. After 6 weeks of extensive training, I set up a machine in my bedroom and dialyzed on my own every other night for 8 hours while I slept. In April of 2012, I received a donor kidney, which lasted nearly 5 years before rejecting, causing me to resume dialysis. Having experienced home dialysis, I knew that's the treatment I would return to, as it gave me the freedom to live my life the way I wanted, and has allowed me to continue working full-time and raise my 3 children. I am involved with the AAKP because the patient voice matters. As a kidney patient determined to continue advocating for advancements in technology, education, and research to improve outcomes of those affected by kidney disease, I am so honored to introduce our session speakers. These individuals are leading cutting-edge research initiatives that aim to truly shake up the status quo in kidney care and help provide an alternative to the organ shortage crisis. I'd like to start this session by introducing our first group of speakers who will be providing updates on the Kidney Project, a bioengineered artificial implant kidney, and an investment perspective on bringing this innovation from concept to the patients. AAKP has been honored to collaborate closely with the Kidney Project, announcing a joint partnership between the AAKP and this research initiative in 2018 when under the AAKP Center for Patient Research and Education. The AAKP provided valuable patient insights by deploying a comprehensive online survey to obtain qualitative and quantitative data on patient preference, perception, and risk tolerance for new and innovative therapies such as wearable and implantable devices. I'd like to start the session by introducing the Kidney Project leads, represented by Dr. Shuvo Roy, Technical Director of the Kidney Project and Professor in the Departments of Bioengineering and Therapeutic Science and Surgery at the University of California, and a 2-time KidneyX Prize winner and recent recipient of the 2021 KidneyX Artificial Kidney Prize. Dr. William Fissell, Medical Director of the Kidney Project and Associate Professor of Clinical Medicine at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And joining them, Ms. Janis Naeve, Medical Director, Amgen Ventures, and investing partner of the Kidney Project. Thank you all for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. We're looking forward to sharing an update on the Kidney Project. So as you guys all may know, our goal is to develop an implantable bioartificial kidney, a device that will provide many of the benefits of a transplant while overcoming the scarcity of donor organs. In our vision, this device is implanted to provide continuous treatment, freedom of mobility, more physiological treatment, while avoiding the risks of infection associated with dialysis and avoiding the need for immunosuppression drugs that transplants require. The way we are going about doing this is not discovery science. We're actually engineering solution based on taking existing knowledge and putting it together to provide a device that can be used hopefully in the coming decade and not over 2 or 3 decades. I will hand over to my colleague to tell you the difference between our approach and some of the other approaches out there.
Hi, I'm Bill Fissell. I'm the medical director of the Kidney Project, and Dr. Roy is exactly correct. This project is an out-of-the-box way of thinking. Not only is it an out-of-the-box way of thinking in our technical approach, it doesn't fit perfectly into the paradigm of discovery science, where a typical science grant aims to learn the mechanisms of health and disease. Our goal is to take the discoveries that others have made and use those discoveries, apply them to alleviate the suffering associated with kidney failure. Dr. Roy did not invent silicon. I did not invent kidney cells. However, between Dr. Roy's membranes and our work on growing kidney cells, we can put these two advances together to develop a treatment for end-stage kidney disease that overcomes the things that make people who rely on dialysis sick. 20 years ago, when I was a nephrology fellow at University of Michigan, I worked with a pioneer in this field named David Humes. David had the same goal, alleviating suffering. David developed a large-scale bioartificial kidney that combined artificial membranes, at that time just conventional dialysis membranes, with living cells harvested from transplant discards and delivered to the patient in an extracorporeal circuit. The cells were seated inside the hollow fibers of a conventional dialyzer, and he copied the architecture of a healthy kidney nephron, using one dialyzer as a filter to mimic the filtration function of the kidney's glomerulus, and using a second dialyzer loaded with kidney cells, healthy, growing, functional kidney cells, to mimic the behavior of a kidney's tubule. Because we didn't know at the time what the molecular basis was for the overwhelming illness and mortality associated with acute kidney injury, but we did know that acute kidney injury was associated with death and dysfunction of a certain kind of cell in the kidney. So David went about replacing that cell with this large-scale bioartificial kidney. And it showed great promise in initial human clinical trials. And our goal as engineers, as physicians, is to shrink that huge system that occupied an entire ICU room that you see on the left down into a device that's small enough that it could be implanted into a person just like a transplant kidney. Our goal is to make a universal donor kidney so that a transplant surgeon, when he or she meets a patient with kidney failure, can just go to the supply room, unpack a bioengineered living hybrid device, and sew it into a patient so that every patient with kidney failure can enjoy the benefits of kidney transplant without sitting waiting for something bad to happen to someone else. Shuvo?
Indeed. So, how are we going to miniaturize the system that you saw in the previous slide? We are going to take the technology used to make semiconductors, the airbags sensors that we have in our cars, the gyroscopes that run planes. We're going to take that technology that uses lithography and etching to make tiny electronic circuits and tiny sensors. But instead of making tiny sensors or electronics, we're going to make filtration membranes that mimic the kidney's own membrane. And what you see here on the slide is a silicon wafer that has been patterned with nanoscale pores that resemble what we have in a healthy kidney. And by using this manufacturing technology that allows bulky electronics from 50 years ago to be made into something that fits in the palm of your hand in a cell phone with much more efficiency, is the same technology that will let us miniaturize that system that was tested out over 20 years ago. Here you see a slide that shows our membrane technology that can be precisely patterned, is highly biocompatible, and can operate and filter with just the body's own blood pressure. So the amount of surface area that you need is significantly less than what is used in a standard dialyzer. And it requires a lot less pressure to generate filtrate. In fact, we can generate that filtrate just by using the body's own blood pressure. So that's a key component of miniaturization. The second aspect of that is going to require cell therapy.
So every patient who's ever been in a dialysis unit knows one thing is common to dialysis, and that's water. Every dialysis unit, you see jugs of water being moved around. Every dialysis unit, you see water being pumped from place to place. That's totally unreasonable if you're trying to make an implantable artificial kidney. Your own kidney doesn't do that. We chose, as my former mentor David used to say, to harness Mother Nature's 60 million years of research and development to be able to copy how a real kidney works. When we use these tubule cells that grow in a lab dish, we're able to harness the biochemical energy of the body to sort out what molecules in blood are toxins and need to be excreted, and what molecules in blood are the healthy building blocks of muscles and cells. And we've learned over 60 years how to grow cells in the laboratory. Our group, we didn't invent cell culture. Cell culture was invented 60 years ago as a means to create the polio vaccine. What we have done is to import those techniques and modify them, tune them, so that kidney cells in our hands are able to grow, multiply, and differentiate and form a layer of cells that processes the filtrate that emerges from the silicon filters that Dr. Roy just showed us, and concentrate waste products down into a tiny volume that a person can urinate and just replace that fluid loss by drinking. All of the infrastructure, the hassle, the bulky dialysis, the pumps, all gone. A healthy kidney doesn't have those things, and neither does our implanted bioartificial kidney. We've invested not only in silicon membrane technology, and not only in cell culture technology, we have moved to be able to implement these two innovations in a device that's small enough to be implanted in a healthy human body, just like a transplanted kidney. And there's been an engineering effort using the same tools that are used, for example, to design jumbo jets, to design the blood pathways in this artificial kidney cartridge, so that patients will not need to take blood thinners like heparin or warfarin. They'll be able to go about their business without the fear of bleeding to death from an accident. Dr. Roy, will you tell us how this was done?
Yes, over the last decade, we've invested in creating components, testing them preclinically, and running through a cycle of increasingly rigorous design efforts and culminating with prototypes. So what you see is a design of a artificial kidney prototype that would mount both the filter units and the cells. And by putting it together, would have a miniaturized version of what would be an implantable bioartificial kidney. So the fundamental components are in place. So what we've done is build on these fundamental components, test them in preclinical animal models, tested them on the benchtop for robustness, evaluate their performance, and then brought them together into a single unit that combines the filter unit, the hemofilter, with the cell therapy unit, the bioreactor, into a functional prototype of the implantable bioartificial kidney. For the first time ever, we've been able to show that these two units can work in tandem and generate urine. Never has this been done before, since we've always worked with the individual components in the past. And we are very excited now to build on this success and move forward. So how do we move forward? So we need to move forward to scale up our device from a miniature version of an implantable bioartificial kidney to a clinically sized version that can provide therapy. For that, we'll need funding and collaborators. We need the funding to scale up the technology, to conduct the preclinical trials in a systematic way that we can submit the data for to the FDA, and then ultimately to conduct the clinical trials. We need collaborators in the semiconductor manufacturing field and cell production. Experts that know how to do manufacturing and production under rigorous conditions that can be ultimately implemented for patient use. Most importantly, what we really need are not just money and collaborators, but these two sources must really be true partners, partners that get us to the next step. And that can be a challenge given the landscape of the funding to date. Bill, maybe you can explain that a little more.
Absolutely. I think that we know that all of the players, all of the stakeholders in the field of kidney care are trying to do the best for every patient. The NIDDK, and maybe even the National Institutes of Health as a whole, have limited funding. They want to make the most out of every dollar. And the philosophy that we've seen from the NIDDK is that they want to devote the available funds to developing knowledge. Knowledge is something that can be shared freely. If I learn a fact and then I tell you a fact, I don't have fewer facts when I'm done. The development of insight and understanding about how the kidney works in health and how the kidney fails in disease is absolutely critical to preventing the need for dialysis. However, we've seen over 2 decades that patients continue to develop renal failure despite new insights into the development of classic diseases in nephrology. Even over these past 2 years, we've seen that patients with a completely new virus, COVID-19, develop kidney insufficiency and kidney failure at very high rates. There is always going to be patients who develop kidney failure. And Dr. Roy and I are committed to making sure that patients who do develop kidney failure from whatever cause have a chance at life. So we are out of the box. We're out of the box in our thinking of applying silicon nanotechnology from the microelectronics industry to blood filtration. We're out of the box in understanding that we can create conditions for cell culture that will let living human cells develop healthy function in a lab dish. And we're also out of the box in directing our attention to practical solutions that will alleviate the suffering of dialysis today. There's patients who are developing kidney failure today who know that they will never have the option of a kidney transplant. We want to do better for all of these patients. Yes, discovery science, basic research, mechanisms of illness is certain to pay off someday. But in the meantime, I want to take care of the patients that I see in the office, in the dialysis unit, and in the intensive care unit. Shuvo?
Thank you, Bill, for explaining that. What you see on this slide is an array of the funding sources that have helped us to get to this point. including the National Institutes of Health, as well as a number of other federal agencies. What you'll note is we also have a listing of private foundations, and what I don't have listed is the thousands of names that have made small donation contributions, but collectively have helped us get to the point you've seen in our presentation today. Going forward, we will need additional funds and we'll need collaborators. So on behalf of Dr. Fissell and myself, we welcome the AAKP community to join us as we continue that journey. I am pleased to share with you one of our supporters, a supporter that has guided us today and who hopefully will continue to guide us going forward, and that's Dr. Janis Naeve. Welcome.
Thank you, Shuvo. Thank you, Bill. Through our corporate venture capital arm, Amgen invests in early-stage transformational companies that play a critical role in sustaining a vibrant R&D ecosystem. Supporting entrepreneurs to create cutting-edge innovation aligns with Amgen's mission to transform the promise of science and technology into therapies that can change patients' lives. Given Amgen's long-standing commitment to nephrology patients, the artificial kidney could be a true disruptor for patients suffering from kidney disease. Our approach to kidney disease is unsustainable. The human toll is huge. It is the 9th largest cause of death in the United States, but mortality statistics don't begin to get at the impact of the disease. We are long overdue for a new approach to kidney disease, not just looking for marginal improvements for an already rickety, expensive paradigm, but rather reinvent how we approach the disease. The holy grail of this new approach, an artificial kidney, could revolutionize how we treat patients needing kidney care. That is why Amgen Ventures invested in Silicon Kidney, and it's a national effort to develop an implantable bioartificial kidney that would eliminate the need for dialysis, treat kidney failure, and offer an alternative to kidney transplant. We believe the artificial kidney, while a high-risk investment given the uncertainty in human clinical trials, would be a true disruptor in the nephrology space. It would not only transform the lives of patients who are currently on dialysis, but could also reduce healthcare costs and provide relief to the health systems. It is important to not stop here, but to continue to invest and accelerate innovation in prevention, diagnosis, and treatment, so we can improve the lives of the 850 million people worldwide currently impacted by kidney disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roy, Dr. Fissell, and Ms. Naeve for an excellent and inspiring presentation about what therapies are on the horizon for kidney patients. I'd like to now welcome and introduce our final speaker for today's session, Dr. Victor Gura. Dr. Gura is founder and innovator of the wearable artificial kidney known as WAC 3.0 and a practicing nephrologist at Cedars Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles. Dr. Gura is a longtime friend and ally of the AAKP. We've been honored to feature him in our previously hosted events, including our 2021 Global Summit. For today, I'd like to invite Dr. Gura to provide an update on WAC 3.0 by asking him a series of questions. Why do we need a WAC?
Well, you need a WAC if you're on dialysis, because the way you do it now is not a very good way of doing it. If you are a dialysis patient, then you go 3 times, 4 times a week to a dialysis clinic, and you spend hours on end tied to a dialysis machine. You would want something that gives you more freedom. So instead of spending so many hours of your life attached to a machine, you're free to go and do whatever you want. When your kidneys don't work, you need dialysis to survive. And you have to go through this difficult process of spending so much time attached to a machine. And patients on dialysis want their freedom back. So if you would have a miniaturized device that you can wear on your body all the time, so you don't have to go to a clinic 3 times a week. That's why you would be better off by having a WAC. If you're dialyzing at home, same story. You're still attached to a machine doing other things. Is impossible. So when you're on the machine, you cannot go to the bank, you cannot work, you cannot clean the house, you cannot go to the store because you're attached to the machine. When you're out of the machine, many times you're fatigued and you don't want to do anything except going to sleep. So if you would have a device that does not leave you fatigued and tired after the treatment, that's why a WAC would be better for you. And I can continue discussing this to a great length, but I assume there are more questions coming.
Can you share with us how big and how heavy it is?
The prototype of the wearable artificial kidney, the WAC, has been evolving. The Model 1 was in a big breadboard and it was used in animals. It was not even wearable, it was just a prototype. The Model 2 is still a prototype and it weighs 11 pounds. It was never intended to be the device that people are going to walk with on the street. It was intended as a proof of concept that in fact you can do a wearable device. And as such, we made it work and it performed very well as a prototype of 11 pounds. However, the patients still said it's too big, we want it smaller. And we had to figure out how to make it smaller. The Model 3, which is coming up now, and we hope to trial it sometime in 2022 in Nashville, Tennessee, in University of Vanderbilt, is a 2-pound device, and that is small enough for people to walk around with it and wear it. So the idea is to reduce the device to such a size and weight that people will feel comfortable walking around with it and conducting their activities of daily life. So the Model 3 coming up has been miniaturized enough to weigh only 2 pounds.
Is the WAC 3.0 something a patient can carry in a bag or a backpack?
The answer is yes, you can. Should you? Probably not. And the reason why not is because the connection between the device and your bloodstream is a tube that conducts blood. So if the device is in your backpack and your connection is a lengthy piece of tubing that might be a couple of 2-3 feet, connecting blood from a catheter to the device, there is a very significant chance that it may kink, cut off, entangled with something else. So can you put it in a backpack? You can. Should you? Probably not. Furthermore, if you take it on a bag next to you, you also have a tube running your blood between your body and the device. So the risks posed by entanglement or a cut or kinking of a lengthy tube are such that can you? Yes. Should you? Probably not. There are better ways, more adaptive to the body, where you can put a WAC 3.0 like a belt, which would probably be the most convenient place to put it. So those that think that you can do it, make a WAC and carry it in a backpack, when they start looking at a very important issue, which is human factors of interaction between the human body and a device, and may discover that a backpack or a bag is doable but not advisable.
Is it possible to take it off? And if not, why not?
The Model 2 was never intended to do anything except work for a few hours. It worked up to a day. The Model 3 is something that people will be able to wear it 24/7 and sleep with it, take a shower with it, and you may not want to take it off. Can you? Yes. Should you? As little as possible. Reason being that the Model 3, when you open and close the blood circuit, you can get infections. And the less infections you get, the better off you are. The Model 4, which we are working already now, will have more technology to prevent infections, and as such, you'll be able to take it off and put it back. However, you need to be realistic. The WAC is like your kidney. It's an extracorporeal kidney out of your body, but a kidney nonetheless. Nobody takes his kidneys off his body to go to a party or to sleep. And you need the kidneys for as long as possible. That's the way your body is designed. So the more you take it off and put it back, the less off you are. Discussing this with patients, I had a patient that said to me, very nice lady that likes to party, she says, I don't want this on my body when I dress up and I go to a party. I want to look my best on my latest Chanel model that I just purchased, and I won't go dancing, and I don't want this on me. So that's okay on the Model 4. She will be able to do that. I listen to her because I have such a patient, and I say, how can I make her happy? And that's when the ideas for the Model 4 came up, where patients will be able to connect and disconnect on their own. But the idea is to mitigate the risk of infection, because you cannot go partying and dancing if you have an infection in your catheter. That's not a very good idea. So you still have to make choices. Do you have a WAC that you don't have to sit on next to the machine for hours on end? Yes, it's better off than having to do that. But it's never an end to the desires and demands of different people. Eventually, you will have different devices of different sizes and models for different people. The WAC for an 80-year-old lady in an aging facility will be different from the WAC for a truck driver or a bodybuilder or a security guard that weighs 200 pounds and is 30 years old. So eventually we will have different models for different people. This is just the beginning.
If an adult patient is on dialysis for 3 hours, 3 times a week, what does it do for the patient?
A lot. First of all, you don't have to go and spend 9 hours a week to 12 hours a week on the machine. So those 12 hours that were not yours are now back to you to use your time the best you like. That's number one. Number two, when you dialyze with a WAC, we have shown that there is no limitations on the amount of fluid and foods that you can take, and I'll discuss that further later. So your freedom to eat and drink what you want is back. Third, we have enough data to believe that the post-dialysis fatigue that you have after being 3 hours on the device is not going to be back. So you will have less chances of being disabled, uh, unable to do anything after dialysis, and you'll have a more normal life. If you are 3 times a week for 3 hours on the machine, and you don't remove all the time all the toxins you want to remove, you have to take a lot of pills. You need to stick 2 needles in a fistula. That's painful. I never saw anybody that is happy because they have to stick 2 needles in their arm. So that's going to disappear. So the amount of advantages, the freedom of eat and drink, the decrease in the amount of pills, and the freedom to go and do whatever you darn please with your time are some of the many advantages that the WAC hopefully will confer to the patients.
For individuals watching that are parents or guardians of pediatric kidney patients who are on hemodialysis, can you explain if or how this device can help that population?
In many ways. Children on hemodialysis, fortunately, there are not very many of them. Most of them do peritoneal and they do a little better. But those that require only hemodialysis, they have many problems. Because the filtration required for a child to grow is less than what regular hemodialysis provide, growth in children is impaired, and that's a big deal. So if you deliver better clearances of toxins to children, the chances of growth will improve, or so we expect. The second thing is, if you're an adult, you have probably 4 or 5 liters of blood in your body. So if you're dialyzing with a machine that has 250 to 300 ml of blood inside the machine when you're dialyzing, you don't have a problem. But if you have if you're a 10-year-old child, you don't have 4 liters of blood in your body or 5 liters. You have much less. So the amount of blood that goes into a big machine is very significant and causes many problems. The WAC only uses 35 cc's of blood, not 250 cc's of blood. So the ease of dialyzing a child with a WAC is much better than dialyzing a child with a regular machine. Dialyzing children with regular machines today is doable, but it's a big technological challenge. And there are no machines for chronic dialysis for children yet. This would be a first.
Thank you, Dr. Gura. This is all such great information. Just a few more questions, more nutrition related, since this is such an important topic for kidney patients. If I use a wearable kidney device, will I still need to watch my potassium and phosphorus?
No. We have shown in human data, by the way, there are many people trying to do wearable kidneys, implantable kidneys. Nobody has human data so far except the work that we are doing. But our human data, already carried out and published, have shown that you can eat whatever you please and your phosphorus will not go down. Actually, you might even have to give you phosphorus. What that means is that there's no limitation in the foods that you can eat today that have phosphorus, such as dairy, ice cream, cheese. And we would make phosphate binders obsolete. The same goes for potassium. You might be able to eat tomatoes and potatoes and orange juice and all those high potassium foods and drinks that you craved but couldn't have because potassium can cause a cardiac arrest if you don't watch it. With the WAC, we have shown that it kept the potassium and the phosphorus also normal. So no phosphate binders, freedom to eat and drink whatever foods you want without any risk of high phosphorus or high potassium.
What about fluid overload? Would patients still have to limit fluid intake?
No. The WAC removes fluids at the same rate your kidneys do. So if you drink 1.5 to 2 liters of fluids a day, which is what the normal adult drinks, and we remove 1.5 to 2 liters of fluid from your body, you can drink whatever you want whenever you're thirsty. And that has been shown in 3 human trials around the globe. So if we remove all the fluid we needed to remove in 3 famous hospitals around the globe with 3 different very famous nephrologists, and the data showed each and every time that you can drink all the fluid you want, and there is no fluid overload, then there is no fluid overload. The thing works. So you never have fluid overload. And when you go to the dialysis unit, you have to remove 3 or 4 liters of water that causes cramps and pain and sometimes drops in blood pressure. All that is gone with a WAC. So no more fluid limitations.
And what about sodium intake?
In the WAC, we have removed up to 15 to 18 grams of salt a day. Patients on dialysis are told to eat only 2 grams of salt a day, maybe 3. So that makes the food not that tasty, much tasteless than you would like. Since you remove 9, 10, 15 grams of salt a day, you can eat basically all the salt you want. And there will be no limitations on salt. So you can eat pretzels and earrings and olives, whatever salty food you like, and the WAC will keep your sodium level wherever it needs to be without high blood pressure, without fluid overload. And this is not because I just say so, but that's what we showed in our human data that we carried on patients with the WAC 2.0, and the WAC 3.0 is going to be no different in that regard.
And final question, Dr. Gura. Can you share with us how this innovation will be paid for?
Well, by statute, CMS pays for dialysis, regardless of which way you do it. We've had in the past several discussions with prior leaderships in CMS with the change with administrations, of course, and we have heard that they were not only going to pay for dialysis with a WAC, but they were in record saying that for new technologies, they even pay more than with old technologies. Furthermore, there is already a billing code for a wearable artificial kidney. So we do know that those that are Medicare recipients are going to get reimbursed. And there's no question that no matter how you dialyze, whatever machine and whichever your insurance you have, the payers are going to still cover treatment with this. Furthermore, because of the enormous savings that the WAC is going to bring to the Medicare budget and to the insurers, there's going to be a strong desire on their part to implement the WAC because it's going to save them a lot of money. For example, the cost of 1 month of treatment with phosphate binders is about $900 a month. If you do the math, it's about $5-6 billion a year that we're paying in phosphate binders in the United States alone. If we make phosphate binders obsolete, then the expense of paying for phosphate binders is gone. So if it's gone, that's a huge saving in billions that doesn't exist today. There are many other examples: less high blood pressure, less fluid overload. That means less heart failure, less hospitalizations, and so on. So there is a strong economic set of reasons for payers, including Medicare, to pay for this.
Thank you, Dr. Gura. We appreciate you taking the time to join us and answer these questions to help kidney patients learn more about this upcoming technology. I would like to again thank today's panel of speakers. To learn more about the Kidney Project, I encourage you to follow them on Facebook at Artificial Kidney. And to learn more about the WAC 3.0, visit www.wearableorgans.com. Thank you again for joining us.